Welcome along to Donington Park, where we'll see the opening round of the Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli heading out onto the circuit very soon indeed. This fantastic grid of, 28 cars that set times in qualifying, with even one car not setting a time in qualifying and having had electrical issues. Hopefully we'll make it to the grid, but we have got the first race of a busy 2023 season coming up for all of these competitors. Mark McAleer chatting to you now. Joining me in the commentary box to go through all of the action in this 25-minute race coming up is Piers Pryor. Piers, what a grid of cars.
I mean, look at it. I love the variety we've got here. Some newer cars, some older cars, all Porsches, of course. They're just great to watch, great to see on circuit. Such a colourful grid, as we mentioned in the Boxster Cup just a moment ago, but it's great to see so many cars going out, and a big grid as well, which is, we always love to see big grids. Yeah,
colossal grid of cars. It includes a raft of former champions, whether it either be class champions or overall champions in the Porsche Club series that we've got. It also, hopefully, off the back of it, will include our champion from last year, Colin Tester, who had electrical issues in qualifying and didn't set a single time at the wheel of the number one car. So if he's out there, he's going to be one to watch at the tail end of the field.
I'm sure he'll have a fun race coming through if his pace is anything like it was last year, because of course you're going to have some speed to have won the championship. But yeah, very much hope that he's managed to make to the grid. But look at that, Mark. Look, you can barely even see the tarmac, and I'm sure they'll spread out as the race goes on, but I'm imagining we're going to have a lot of battles to call throughout this one as the grid is forming up. Though I tell you what, I'm very much enjoying the ear warmers of the Marshall set in the grid there.
It is chilly out there. You can tell that we're not quite at spring yet, are we? So this is Class 1 and Class 2 cars that are on the grid. Class 1 cars, either a Cayman S or a 996 C2. 997 C2s are eligible as well. And again, depending on the car, also dictates the weight that it has to run. And then we've got Class 2 as well, which caters for the Caymans and the Boxsters, and 964s are eligible for that. And again, whether it be the 2.7 or the 3.2 flat sixes, in any of those cars, they are all equalised in terms of the performance of them. Let's guide you through the grid then as they head around the circuit. And pole position earlier on today went the way of Harry Mailer, who qualified on pole position, and alongside is Pete Morris. So it's Harry Miller and Pete Morris on the front row of the grid. Row 2 of the grid is Neil Delagre and the car of James Caley, 62 and 11 on row number 2. And row 3 of the grid is Mark McAleer and Steve Wood. Mark McAleer and Steve Wood. Next row of the grid still sees Bill Caley line up alongside Chris Dyer. That's Bill Caley and Chris Dyer on row number 4. And row 5 is Andrew Muggeridge and Warren McKinley. That's 17 and 12 on row number 5. The 6th row of the grid is Andrew Porter and Richard Bayston on row number 6. So it's Porter and Bayston on row number 6, with row 7 being comprised by Andy Toon and Oliver Chatham. Andy Toon and Oliver Chatham. The 8th row of the grid is Peter Evans and Jim Bryan. Peter Evans and Jim Bryan, with row 9 being the next one being Shiraz Khan and Angus Archer. Shiraz Khan and Angus Archer. 10th row of the grid is Darren Labette and Ross Morris. Ross Morris is a former champion as well, by the look of things. And row 11 of the grid, Vince Blacker and Harry Rice. The 12th row of the grid sees Carl Hazelton line up alongside Paul Simpson. Carl Hazelton and Paul Simpson, with Brian Richardson and Ed Hayes having set the times for the 13th row of the grid. Row 14 of the grid, Tom Atherton starts this race alongside Julian Morris. Tom Atherton and Julian Morris, and hopefully we've got Colin Tester at the back of the grid, having had problems in qualifying. So there we go. That's the way that the grid lines up. Apologies, we've got a few small technical issues in our commentary box, which we'll be trying to work our way through. But we are, depending on what those technical issues are, whether we get them sorted, we are a little bit blind with some of the action that's going on out there on track.
Yeah, I did see that Harry Mailer from pole position is very much ready for this race. He jumped away from his grid box and was giving nice big tyre marks down the straight on his way to Redgate Corner. So he's well up and ready for a race. I know Harry Mailer for a few years ago. He's a really nice guy, but he's very much looking to racing this year. It looks like we're gridding up for the race now. So we've got some visuals back, which is great, and looking forward to an excellent race with all of these wonderful Porsches.
Yep. So looking forward to this one, and we'll see who might might come out on top with this one. Harry Mailer, having set the time in qualifying, only 73 thousandths of a second quicker than multiple champion Pete Morris, that lines up alongside in the red and black Straza prepared Porsche with the white stripe right the way down the centre. Row 2 of the grid, it's the blue car of Neil Delagre alongside the green and gold car of James Caley. And row 3, it's sort of black and grey for Mark McAleer alongside the yellow and black car of Steve Wood. It's great to see Steve back out racing regularly at the wheel of his car. So the lights will very shortly be coming on the gantry. We're about to get the 25 minutes for the first race of the season for this Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli underway. The mixed grid of Class 1 and Class 2 cars. Lights go out, and it's not a bad start from Harry Mailer. There's problems further back as cars stall and swerve around each other, but Harry Mailer, by the look of things, is going wheel to wheel with Pete Morris as they head up towards Redgate Corner for the first time, but Pete Morris is going to have to tuck himself through into second place. James Caley tries to go all the way around the outside of Neil Delagre and might have extra momentum onto the top of the Crane of Curves, but the blue car of Delagre has the inside line. I think will hang on to third. They are all safely, despite the problems at the back of the grid, through the first few corners.
Yeah, Mailer with a strong start. He practiced that on the green flag lap, but followed closely by Morris, who's of course following right down there, and they've kind of broken away the top two from the field as we see Delagre and Caley very close behind in third and fourth place. A bit of a congestion going through the old hairpin towards the back of the field.
Yeah, but the main thing is that they're all safely in there at this stage. Harry Mailer converting pole position
to
the
shot.
race lead, and that's big problems, I'm afraid. And that's Bill Caley that is off. He's not the only car that's off there, but you can see heavy damage to the front end of Bill Caley's Cayman. And the other car was off, Mark McAleer, possibly.
Yeah, I think so. I couldn't quite see. I think it was either number 14 and number 16. It must be number 14 of Mark McAleer. So, really unfortunate to see a big incident on the first lap. Potentially a safety car might come out, but for now, the racing still goes until the safety car board. So these cars at the back, if they're under green flag, will be going, no, red flag. Red flag, I think, for that incident. There's clearly some debris on the circuit. But no, unfortunate to see such a big crash right at the start of the season.
Yeah, such a shame. So I think we'd identified the cars correctly, but I think there might be a third car in there as well. And I think it might be Oliver Chatham that's got tangled up. The one good thing, Piers, is despite the fact it was a hefty shunt, we can see Mark McAleer out of the car. We can see Bill Caley out of his car as well. So surveying the damage, of course, disappointed, but they're okay. Always
the main thing is that everyone involved physically is okay, and it looks like they're both dejected but physically unharmed as far as we're aware by the looks of it so far. They're out of the car. I'm sure they'll have a debrief together once they've assessed the damage, but no, big damage on the Caley car on the front right hand side. We don't know whether that damage was caused on circuit or whether it was after they'd left the circuit. We assume that there was some sort of coming together there. We didn't. It wasn't quite on camera, so we'll keep informed as to what we know as we go on. Yeah, so there's Bill Caley with the crash helmet off. Mark McAleer still with his crash helmet on, looking at what is crumpled damage. You can see the damage to the front right of Bill Caley's car. You can see the damage to the front left of Mark McAleer's car. What we can't see is what other damage there is across the front of Mark McAleer's car. And also, I gather Oliver Chatham might have been involved as well. I'm hearing through the headset. So yeah, Oliver Chatham I think was involved. Whether he's still on scene or whether he then subsequently left the scene, we don't know. But little choice when you've got two cars that are in a dangerous position and debris across the track. To show the red flag. There was a possibility of safety car, but the officials, I think, probably making the right decision, as they always do, red flag rather than safety car. Safety is always paramount, of course. We know that motorsport is dangerous and there's nothing we can do to get away from that, but when there's cars stranded at a very fast part of the circuit with potentially debris around, those next leaders were going to come around within a minute or so, and you don't know whether those drivers in the cars had any injuries, and you need to make sure that they can get any of the attention that they need immediately. Luckily on this occasion, of course, both okay, but the cars will need retrieved. We'll get the grid reset and we'll be ready to go very shortly, but it's a dramatic start to the first race of the Porsche Cup Racing Series. How, you've driven and raced before. I'm not sure whether you've had incidents on your first race of the season, but if you have, you can, and if you haven't, you can still put yourself in that mindset of the driver. You've waited all winter, you've put all that hard work into the car, or the team have prepping it, and you're absolutely desperate to get the season underway, and then on the first lap you have an incident. It must be so frustrating. Yeah, I can completely imagine. Luckily, I've never had the first race of the season where I haven't finished. Oh, you saved it for later on in the year, did you? Yeah, I saved it for later on in the year, once everyone was got going, just ruin the flow in the whatever. But yeah, it's gutting, because we all know how much hard work goes on behind the scenes for every single one of these drivers. We know motorsport is not cheap, and regardless of your financial standing, it takes money, but also a lot of time and effort from yourself, from the team, teams to get the car hay, or the prep in terms of driving, physical prep if you're doing that, and you know, just to have all that and all the hype building up for the year. You've got the practice, the pre-season, the qualifying,
testing,
then you get testing, you get it racing, and then halfway around the lap incident. But that is racing, and that's why we do it, because it's unpredictable.
It's a roller coaster of emotions, isn't it?
Absolutely,
it's a roller coaster of emotions, and that's why, you know, when you have those good weekends, you've got to enjoy them, because you know they don't come around that frequently.
Not for most people, anyway, Mark. Yeah, certainly not for myself as much as I would have liked. But regardless, it's peculiarly disappointing. But the race will get underway very shortly, and for now, of course, all the drivers on the grid will be thinking, right, I've got ready once. Need to do it all over again. How are my tyres feeling? They will already be sizing up how their pace was. I guarantee the drivers at the front will be feeling how the car felt compared to how it was at qualifying or in practice, because the track, of course, throughout a race weekend evolves. The conditions today very different to where they were yesterday even.
It was quite shocking on occasions yesterday. So the incident is being cleared up. It's probably a good opportunity to mention all of our marshals that are out there. All of the Orange Army who give their time freely so that we can enjoy motorsport. The vast majority of them will be members of what's called the BMMC, which is the British Motorsport Marshals Club. And if you're watching the stream and maybe want to see how you could get involved in motorsport, marshalling is a really good way of doing it. You can get as close to the racing action as anybody other than the drivers. Yes, you have to give your time freely as a volunteer, but the best thing to do, Piers, and I don't know whether you've ever marshalled or not, is you can log on to marshals.co.uk, and you can sign up to what's called a taster day. Every circuit has numerous taster days over the course of the season. You look at a track that's close to you, you look at a weekend that's convenient for you, and you put yourself forward via the website, and you'll get sent through an electronic ticket to that race meeting. And when you arrive, you get greeted by your mentor for the day, a very experienced marshal. You'll not be the only one that's going through this process on the day. There'll be a group of you, so you'll all be in a very similar situation. And in the morning, you get a guided tour. So you get to understand what happens on the individual marshals posts that we can see there in the background of the shot there on the start line. You'll probably go into the scrutineering bay to understand the technical checks these cars go through before they even get on the grid. For technical and for safety reasons, they go through those. Understand what happens in the assembly area, which is where the cars gather before they go onto grid. Parc Fermé, which is where they will go after the race. You might get to see what happens in race control with all of the CCTV cameras. Possibly even in the, you could see the MSV vehicle moving off there. That's a rescue unit, so that is a registered ambulance, but that also, it's just moved out of shot now. That contains all of the cutting and extraction gear, so that should we get a serious incident, we need to extract a driver from a bent car, then they've got all of the cutting gear in there. Sometimes they come into the commentary box and timekeeping as well. You do all of that in the morning on your taster day. Then in the afternoon, you'll head out onto one of the individual marshals posts with a really experienced team around you to guide you through what you need to do when the cars are out there. So it's a really good way, Piers, in one day of working out, you know, is marshalling for you or not? And they are a great bunch of marshals. We couldn't go racing without them.
We absolutely couldn't go racing without them. And I must say that the marshalling group, the bunch of them, they are probably one of the most friendly groups of people that you could ever be around. And it really is a proper community. I mean, every time that I've had the misfortune to be stranded with the marshals, I've had a great time. We've had an absolutely wonderful time chatting about racing, life, the universe and everything. But they are genuinely, they love doing it. Often they are, you know, centralised. They come down once, twice a month, and it's always the same group of guys. The reason they love it so much is it's a way to get close to the action. It's a community of like-minded enthusiasts, and they get to be a part of a race weekend. Like, you know, look, I mean, without this group here, you know, how would these cars get back?
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, and they are the camaraderie amongst the marshals is fantastic as well. Most people will marshal at their local circuit, but they do sort of travel. So if you're at Donington Park, you know, it's not far to go to Mallory Park or Cadwell Park or down to Silverstone. So they do tend to travel around locally. But you also get, you know, when I've been abroad, you know, there's one particular post at Le Mans that's always British marshals that go and marshal at one post at Le Mans for the 24-hour. You go out to Daytona. I know a few marshals that go out to the Rolex 24-hour at Daytona out there as well. So you don't just have to do it in the UK. It gets expensive when you start to do it abroad because it's still voluntary, but you can go and do it all over the world if you want.
Oh, and it's a great thing to do, and it's really enjoyable because you have an actual impact on the race weekend.
Yeah, and this is a time of year, you know, we've just come through the off season, so there's not been a lot of racing. It's the winter when all of the marshals have their training over the winter, so there'll be dedicated training days where you understand the theory side of marshalling and also the practical side as well. So there'll be things like fire training where they'll fill a tray full of some flammable liquid, or they'll get a scrapped car and fill it full of flammable liquid and set it alight. And as a marshal, you are then trained with how you deal with that fire. You go in with the dry powder extinguisher to smother and cut the oxygen off to the fire, and then you go in with the foam, which is it's called AFFF, aqueous film forming foam, which has the cooling effect to cool it down and seal the oxygen off again. And all of that takes place over the winter as well, doesn't it?
Of course, all part of the trying to remove everything from the fire triangle.
Yep.
Of course, with racing vehicles, there is a lot of heat and these days largely still a lot of flammable liquids about. So unfortunately, fire is an ever-present danger. As we know, motorsport, we say it all the time, motorsport is dangerous, but we try and mitigate those risks as much as possible. And the marshals are there in the case that something does go wrong. And we've seen even in the biggest stage in Formula One with Grosjean's horrific crash in 2020 with the fire, and his life was quite literally saved by marshals, and they're so important, and the training that they get over the winter is imperative, because we put our lives in the hands of the people that organise it and the marshals and as drivers, and it's amazing that we have such a well-organised group of people that we can rely on as drivers and as a sport.
And British marshals, I do bang the drum for them, and rightly so. They are the best in the world, and I sincerely mean that, because that is why some of the Grand Prix where they've been out in the Middle East in the early stages, the marshals were shipped out from the UK to marshal those Grand Prix, to assist the locals who didn't have the knowledge and the experience. And the UK marshals are deemed, quite rightly so, to be the best in the world, with the structure that we have, with the training that we have, with the experience that we have out there as well. But we always need more marshals. Doesn't matter whether it's here at Donington, any race meeting, whether the Porsches are there or not. We'd love to have you along.
Absolutely. And I must say, regrettably, I haven't actually been a marshal yet. I very nearly did, but
you should one day.
I genuinely really want to, and I will always. It's one of those classic things, we need to get round to it, but I will do at some point. But it's also great to see, of course, with the marshals supported so well by the MSV team, and of course the recovery vehicles, which the trucks are going on to as well.
That would make a really nice feature for a future live stream, wouldn't it?
I reckon it would.
With Piers Pryor and his diary of marshalling for the day.
We'll see. I'd love to.
Sell
if
that
I'm
one to the production company.
I absolutely would love to be able to share my marshal experience with you wonderful people at home via a live stream.
There are a couple of championships. This one doesn't. The way the championship points work in Porsche don't give you any extra points if you marshal. But there are a couple of championships in the UK. You can gain points by marshalling. And
also, if you do marshal, you can get signatures towards your racing license to promote as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can get a signature if you're a racing driver and you want a signature on your license. Marshal for the day and you'll get a signature.
Absolutely, you will. It's a great scheme. The fact that the Motorsport UK have teamed up with the BMMC as well to be able to make that happen as well, because it's great to be able to encourage all motor racing participants, whether you're a team member or a racing driver, to be able to experience motorsport effectively from almost in a different point of view.
And another thing, we're at an MSV circuit this weekend. Jonathan Palmer has always been a huge supporter of marshals, and whilst they give their time for free, they do have a marshals raffle. And what happens with the raffle is there are a couple of marshals, 3 or 4, maybe half a dozen throughout the year, as we've nearly cleared the instant now. One of the star prizes is you get a free day at Bedford Aerodrome to go and jump in the Palmer Sport cars and get to experience and drive them, being pushed by your racing driver instructor that's alongside you. And the marshals, when they win that prize, they are absolutely elated because they get to experience it for the first time. Yeah,
as you said, it's great to have these. So we've got a couple of bits of debris just leaving the car as we go across the track. I'm sure the dedicated marshal team will be straight on that. But no, it's great to have amazing opportunities for the marshals because they deserve it. And I mean, who wouldn't love to bat round Bedford Autodrome?
It's good. I've done it a couple of times.
I'm sure you haven't. I have never had the opportunity to bat round Bedford Autodrome, but I've got a few mates that have done it and coached there, and it's a great circuit to be able to do that, and the fact that there's the raffle there for the marshals to do that, among other different prizes as well, is great to have, and great to support our wonderful team of marshals, the Orange Army.
And they've done it again. There we go. They've cleared it all up. There's your man that you were talking about
there
as well.
There we go.
Look, so he's
as if we queued it up.
But again, goes to show that straight away they're concentrating. They spotted that that fell off the truck, and as soon as there's a gap, out there and clear it up. So we're waiting to go. Jeff Bloxham and some of the photographers are waiting to go as well. And once all the vehicles are cleared, countdown board starts again, and we'll get the race back underway for what at the moment, Piers, looks as though it's scheduled to be a 22-minute restart for this race.
Yeah, 22 minutes. We've lost 3 minutes of running, which isn't too bad considering the amount of time we've taken to just clear the circuit. Lost a couple of laps, but the grid will go around for another green flag lap because they've been sitting on the grid long enough that I imagine those tyres will have got cold, and for, of course, safety reasons, we can't have 26 now Porsches going into turn 1 with cold tyres. Harry Mailer again, look, getting as much heat into those tyres from pole position as he can, and the drivers warming and weaving to get as much temperature in the tyres, brakes and everything as they can, ready for the race start. Mark, I'll let you run through if we have possibly a revised grid, but if not, we'll do our best to see who's starting where.
Yeah, well, Harry Mailer, I don't think we'll get the revised grid. Harry Mailer will still be there on pole position with Pete Morris alongside. Neil Delagre in the blue car with James Caley, now the sole remaining member of the Caley family, sitting alongside. We know that Mark McAleer is missing, so there'll be a gap on the third row of the grid, which means that Steve Wood will be on his own, because they will line up in the original grid order, because the race had done less than one lap. We know that on the fourth row of the grid there'll be a gap on the inside where Bill Caley will not be, because his car was involved in the incident, and that means Chris Dyer will be on his own. Row 5 should be Andrew Mugridge and Warren McKinley still. Row 6 should still be Andrew Porter and Richard Bayston. Row 7, Andy Toon, and Oliver Chatham was involved, we gather, but we never actually saw on the camera shots his car, so I'm hoping he might have been able to weave his way around the incident to be able to continue in it. Then it's Peter Evans and Jim Bryan, Shiraz Khan and Angus Archer, Darren Lebet and Ross Morris, Vince Blacker, Harry Rice, Carl Hazelton, Paul Simpson, Brian Richardson, Ed Hayes, Tom Atherton and Julian Morris. And I never could quite spot whether Colin Tester was at the back of the grid.
Let's have a look. There is a one of those newer cars at the back, so is that the car?
Colin Tester's car.
What number are we looking for?
We're looking for number 1, Colin Tester. So his car, if I recall correct, yesterday was white with bits of grey and gold on it, but the car that's at the back of the grid doesn't look to be that colour, so I do wonder if...
Unfortunately, looks like he maybe hasn't made it to the grid, which would be a real shame, but we'll see a championship charge, I'm sure, as the season progresses. Hopefully he'll be able to make it out for the second race of the day later on, about 4:45, so that'll be good to see a full grid, and hopefully we'll see those 2 cars that have had an incident as well, if at all possible. The team's working very hard, and I'm sure they've got enough spares to get going. Hopefully the damage is not too great.
Yeah, the good thing is that, you know, even if your team doesn't have the spares, the way Porsche Club Championship works is that all the teams will help each other. Yeah, you have to pay for those spares, but if another team's got them and you haven't, they will help you out, and sometimes they'll even lend some helping hands as well to try and get a competitor out that's having some problems.
The great thing about Club Motorsport is the fact that everyone is here for the love of racing, and you'd rather have someone to race against, even if you've given them a hand and then they beat you on circuit, than just have someone in the pits that you can't race against. So, you know, it's a really, really good thing, and it's definitely a great part of the Porsche Club that we have, which we are watching right now.
Yep, so we're about to have another go at getting the 2023 championship season underway. Harry Mailer from pole position is on the left of your screen, nailed the start last time and just was able to hang on to it. Keep an eye out for Pete Morris, who lines up alongside him in the red and black car on the front row of the grid. Red lights will be coming on the gantry any second now, and then when they go out, we will be getting this 22-minute race underway. Red lights on. Red lights go out now. Looks though Pete Morris got the better jump this time through and might just have his nose ahead of Harry Mailer as they head down towards Redgate Corner. So Pete Morris just covering off. Harry Mailer in the meantime is trying to prevent Neil Delagre from squeezing his way through. Gets a little bit tight back for 4th and 5th position. All the way around the outside goes James Caley again. It worked for him last time through, but it doesn't. He drops back down into 4th place at the wheel of the green and the gold car. So it is Pete Morris that leads this time as they head down through Hollywood and the Craner Curves.
Yeah, 3 wide at the back of the field there. I couldn't quite catch the numbers, but Mailer will be ruining that red flag start. Perfect start first time round, but now losing out, unfortunately, into the first corner. But again, the 2 of them breaking clear of the rest of the field. There's another car off into the barrier fairly hard at the back, number 64, 54?
Vince Blacker,
64, yeah. That is really unfortunate, and then stuck in the gravel. So hopefully we can go green at least until the end of the lap to see to have some racing throughout the field, but it looks like it'll probably be some sort of safety car to retrieve that. But anyway, for now, number 69 there, that is of course, I can't find the working through the field. But yeah,
Oliver Chatham.
Chatham, of course.
He did make it out. No, he did make it out. Clearly, he didn't get tangled up in the incident. He was just weaving his way past that red flag incident. So hopefully, Vince Blacker's car will just be covered by localised yellows at the moment. Leading pair, busy squabbling away. Steve Wood trying to dive up the inside of former champion Chris Dyer. The 2 of them absolutely side by side. Oh. The auto farm car leans on Chris Dyer, but it is just about the 996 that goes through, and that compromises the exit speed of Chris Dyer, and now he's in danger of getting gobbled up by the next couple of cars as we head up towards Redgate Corner on lap number 2.
Mailer looking around the outside of Morris turn 1, but yellow flagged on the exit of Redgate Corner. He was sizing up for either a move around the outside or a cutback, but it looks like potentially double waved yellows there, or Mailer's lost a lot of time for that first sector, so potentially safety car boards out. We haven't had anything on live timing quite yet, but they're grouping up now. That car is still stranded in the gravel. The marshals, of course, right there, as we've spoken about at length just a moment ago, but the racing is continuing for now. Yeah, Mailer continuing to keep the pressure on Morris, trying to take back the lead that he got the first time we went racing.
Yep, so Pete Morris, who is a multiple champion in both the series overall and in the class, is going to be pushing hard. I love the livery on Pete Evans's car. It looks like a comet, or almost on the side of the car. Fantastic livery as he sits there. Further down through the order he is at the moment. He's inside the top 10, so 9th position. Battle for the lead, though. Harry Mailer beginning to close up again. There's something also, third place car, just dragging on the ground, isn't it? Neil Delagre's car.
Yes.
It doesn't look as though it's anything that's heavy. It just maybe a bit of sound deadening potentially on the exhaust area. Just
a bit of underbody trim by the looks of it, somewhere sort of towards the front of the car, flapping around. That not ideal, but hopefully won't be race ending for now. As we see some moves down towards the back of the field, that is the number 64 of the 64. Yeah, Vince Blacker. Vince Blacker, I couldn't find it. Vince Blacker's in the gravel, so it can't be him. Well, oh, okay, maybe it wasn't him, unless he's made a miraculous recovery. But no, still double waved yellows going down the corner curves, but there's the top 5 is definitely coming together as 3rd, 4th, 5th. So Delagre, Caley and Wood closing up towards this yellow flag zone, of course, going past the incident at safe speed to make sure that everyone is safe as that car is being recovered in the background, but racing on as soon as the green flags are shown at the next marshal post.
Yeah, you could visually see the car slow down through that yellow flag zone. Yeah, really good to see. So Pete Morris still leading the way. How many races has Pete Morris won in the Porsche Club Championship over the years? Well, he's got his work cut out if he wants to try and claim another one, because Harry Mailer is there, Neil Delagre, then you've got the green car with its gold flashes of what will be James Caley. Steve Wood is right behind him at the wheel of the Auto Farm car, and then the number 9 car in the hands of Chris Dyer. So it's sort of 6 breaking away for the lead of the race.
Flames spitting out of McKinley's car as well. It's it's great to see some flames flying out there as Dyer having a look at the inside of the Robert chicane, but not quite making that work as the number 11 of Caley closes the door, but that means that he's vulnerable on the exit to both of the cars behind.
Yep, so that's Steve Wood in the yellow car that's behind James Caley. Steve Wood weaving one way, weaving the other. Did briefly race a Volkswagen Golf in the British GT Championship, did Steve Wood, of all things, best part of 15, 20 years ago.
That famous Grand Tour of the Volkswagen Golf.
And now he's still trying to unlock the door, but he needs to try and close it on the same time, because whilst he wants to get through past James Caley, he's also got the car of Chris Dyer sitting right behind him. Remember, Chris Dyer is a former champion. He was the champion back in 2010, was Chris Dyer, so long time Porsche racer, knows his way around these circuits as well, and knows his way around the Porsche brand. But brilliant little squabble they've got, and a great fight also now for the lead, because Pete Morris has been caught by the pole sitter Harry Mailer, who is asking a few questions.
Yeah, and such is the efficiency of our Marshall team. That car has been removed and we are green all the way around the circuit, so we are hopefully going to be green for the remainder of the race. Fingers crossed, touch wood. But we've got a great battle for the lead as Mailer's looking for a cutback coming out of Coppice corner. He's got a slight overlap. We're going to go side by side down to the rubber chicane. Not quite, as number 15 has made a mistake in running through the grass in the back of the field, but Mailer still applying pressure to Morris going into the final corner. He's opening up the corner to try and get a cutback on the exit, but we'll have to wait and see if he's managed to get that effectively done for the first corner. Yep, he's managed to come alongside. It's going to squeeze him right to the inside, touching wing mirrors. Look at how close this is for the lead.
That was like Mansell and Piquet down the hanger straight all of those years back there, absolutely with each other. Now he's going to try and get the cutback on the exit of the corner. He's got the inside line, but Pete Morris is a little bit quicker off it. This is what's great about this championship. You've got the Porsche Cayman, which only has 300 brake horsepower but is lighter, fighting away with the 997 Carrera 2 of Pete Morris, which has 55 more brake horsepower but is running a lot heavier. It's running the best part of, 150, nearly 200 kilos heavier. Yep. And now we might have the change for the lead this time. Yeah,
Mailer got a great exit out of the old hairpin there, carrying the speed, but that power of the 992 at the front is just keeping him along ahead for now, at least. I saw in the background there was some fighting going on as well. I couldn't even make out who it was.
Let's just have a quick look. You've got Neil Delagre, then you've got James Caley still trying to fend off the yellow car of Steve Wood, and then right behind them is still Chris Dyer. Then we finally get a bit of a respite in the proceedings, because Andrew Muggeridge is very much on his own in 7th place. Down the straight again, Harry Mailer dives out from behind Pete Morris. The heavier car that leads the race is going to have to brake maybe that little bit earlier for the Robert chicane, but we know it's got the grunt on the way out of the corner, but it's still 6 for the lead of the race. Fastest lap of the race is with the yellow car at the moment, number 77, yes. Steve Wood, 1 minute 16.004.
These drivers at the front holding each other up. For those of you who are watching the live timing, it looks like Mailer's transponder isn't quite working, so that will be updated as we go manually, but Mailer's still very much in 2nd place, still very much applying the pressure to Morris at the front of the field. As we see them going down the corner curves, close again for the lead. There's still a 4-way fight for 3rd place. This is crazy.
Brilliant stuff, isn't it? Now, did I see James Caley make a small mistake there midway through the corner? Off is Ross Morris into the gravel trap. So that is Ross. Such a shame that he's gone off. That's at Coppice Corner where he's run wide and pitched it into the gravel. He'll be going no further, and will be having the yellow flags waving, and he'll be getting out of the car probably as his dad comes through, Pete Morris, who leads the way.
Yeah, Pete Morris still in front. The marshal's getting out of the way because that car is in a dangerous position. You can see double waved yellows there. So as we saw, was done so well earlier on. This field very good at slowing down under the yellow flags to make sure that the drivers in the stranded car and the marshals are safe. But once we're past the incident and we hit the next green flag, we are racing again until the next lap, and Maylett still with that pressure on. You can see Morris defending slightly, not taking the optimum racing line just to deter Maylett from taking a dive up the inside into the Roberts chicane. Again, they're going to do battle going into Redgate at the turn 1. That fight for what is now 4th place is ever close as it has been with Wood, Dyer and Caley.
Yeah, so James Caley in the green car still leading it. Steve Wood weaves one way, weaves the other, but the Auto Farm car can't quite squeeze his way through. Again, that compromises his exit coming off the corner, which means that Chris Dyer in the Cayman jumps right onto his coattails. Back to the race leaders, still nose to tail as they head down through the Craner curves. They're on lap number 7 at the moment, and Pete Morris, who's been racing in this championship for a huge amount of years, is having to work overtime to try and prevent Harry Mailer from squeezing his way through. Mailer better mid-corner speed again at the wheel of the Cayman round through the old hairpin, but the extra grunt of the Porsche is at the 997 that leads the way is just telling at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like they've got slightly differing lines into the old hairpin. I think Morris is holding a slightly defensive line into the old hairpin to avoid Mailer diving up the inside, because that corner is definitely an overtaking opportunity. Still probably yellow flags here. Yep, yellow flags, so no overtaking opportunity for Mailer into Coppice. He backs off there, but that is compromising Morris's exit up towards McLean's, so that is why he is vulnerable there, but just managing to stay ahead for now.
Yeah, brilliant stuff, isn't it? So still 6 for the lead of the race. This top 6 cars are separated by just over 2 3/4 seconds, and we're about halfway through this race now. Steve Wood gets a good run this time on James Caley. Now, can he clear him before they get towards Redgate Corner? If he can't, he's on the outside line for Redgate. Harry Mailer is looking to try the same. A big wide sweep in towards Redgate Corner to try and cut back on Pete Morris for the lead of the race.
Side by side.
Yeah.
Is there an overlap there? Not quite an overlap for Mailer.
No, he tried it. He tried everything, but the door just closed. In the background now, I think Steve Wood in the yellow Auto Farm car might just have unlocked the door and worked his way up into what would be 4th position. We'll wait and see when they get down to the old hairpin. No, still not quite at the moment. James Caley still hanging on to it.
Door unlocked, but slammed back shut.
Brilliant stuff. Now, this is wheel-to-wheel stuff. Yes,
Mailer's gone through on the exit of the old hairpin, managed to we saw that it was off camera, but he must have done what he'd done the last 2 or 3 laps and got a good exit out of the old hairpin and managed to have the full overlap by the time they got to McLean's, as now Morris is falling into the clutches of Delagry.
Yeah, I mean, we do know that the Cayman is that little bit lighter, and whilst it hasn't got the power, because it's lighter, it's going to be that little bit easier on its Pirelli tyres that it runs. So that might just be the difference between, you know, the weight difference of the Cayman compared to the 997, that, you know, it works that Pirelli tyre differently, and therefore it might have a bit more tyre towards the end of the race. Yes,
of course, this championship with in association with Pirelli, and all the cars, no matter what they are, running the same compound of Pirelli tyre, so there's no advantage or disadvantage in terms of grip. And as we see, that is Delagry looking up the inside of Morris, so Morris could go from 1st to 3rd in just basically 1 lap, but no, closed the door, and that has meant that Delagry has now gone wide. It is under pressure now from, is that Caley?
It is, yeah, that's James Caley that's got up the inside at Hollywood. Neil Delagry, that's a spin, and that's going to be Paul Simpson that's had the rotation, so number 88 car about to get going once more. But yeah, for Neil Delagry, he's looking as though he's lost the position there. Not just one, he's lost 2, hasn't he? James Caley and also Steve Wood have managed to wiggle their way through. We've been concentrating on what's going on in Class 1. Class 2 at the moment, just to pick up on what's going on in Class 2, it's number 44, which is Andrew Porter, that leads Class 2. Now, he finished 3rd in the Class 2 championship last year at the wheel of the number 44 car, and he's actually quite comfortably leading Class 2 compared to Class 1, where everybody still wants to lead it.
Yes, Class number 1 is still very, very tight. Even though Mailer's got a small gap at the front, I think that there's probably going to come down to something. Is that? No, that's not Mailer. Sorry, his car very much looks like Mailer. I think that might be the number 25, which is, of course, the... If I find
it's Harry Mailer.
It is Harry Mailer. So it must have been a back marker. Must have been a back marker following catching there, as we can see the car of number 3 being recovered after the incident at the Coppice Corner. So that will hopefully clear that yellow flag. As we see again, 5 cars for 2nd place. Roll the dice. Who's going to come out on top?
Yeah, that was a back marker that they're weaving their way through and past, which I think was the 89, was it possibly, which would have been Thomas Atherton, who qualified towards the tail end of the field. I think Adrian Rowlands is doing the second race later on, so it's just one race for him. Last time through, the number 77 car of Steve Wood, fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 15.727, but as I look back towards the screen there, he didn't exactly make friends with the apex down at the old hairpin, did he?
Carrying a little bit too much speed to the old hairpin, which is a very fast corner, but that was not an optimum line, so I don't imagine that'll be a purple sector in the middle of this lap, but clearly some pace down the field. But great to see also the driver in the middle of the front pack getting the fastest lap, so this could even become closer as we see. And a great shot of the side of the recovery vehicle as the cars come through Coppice corner. Again, you can see just how blind the entry to that corner is of Coppice, with the cars completely disappearing out of shot for just a moment.
Well, for our race leader, he has now broken away well and truly from Pete Morris, who is a bit of a cork in the bottle, isn't he? Because he has got James Caley queuing up behind him, then the yellow car, which is in the hands of Steve Wood. Steve Wood has got not too far behind him the car of Neil Delagre, but for Pete Morris, he was looking as though he was on for a win, and now he's going to struggle to hang on to a podium spot if he's not careful. There's also traffic to deal with as well, and that's the recovering car of Paul Simpson, who hopefully sees them coming. I thought he was going to sweep across the nose, but he then indicates them to go by on the right-hand side. Yeah,
we've got a side-by-side down there for third place. It's the oh no, there's contact there. So that looked a little bit cheeky. I think that was from Caley squeezing. Is that Delagre?
That's Steve Wood.
Sorry, Steve Wood got squeezed into the back of the back marker, so a bit of gamesmanship there and a bit of miscommunication, unfortunately, has meant that there's contact, and that car is going to struggle to finish the race at full pace. And yes, you can see him slowing down and taking it to the pits. It's a real shame that battle's come to an end. The driver that still up until last lap had the fastest lap, but Mailer actually took the fastest lap of the last turn around, which was 15.0.
This is the Class 2 leader, so this is number 44 car, which leads comfortably Class 2. Andrew Porter leading the way, and we'll be hoping that he can just maintain what is quite a handsome advantage he's got. So he sits there 11th place overall in the race, but leads Class 2. The next car that's in Class 2 is down in 14th position.
About 9-second gap to his second place, so he's fairly comfortable. He'll be managing the gap, I'm sure, and seeing on his pit board from the team how big the gap is, and he'll be very comfortable there. But Mailer is now stretching a lead in Class 1, and he's got a 3.7 second gap, so becoming comfortable, but there's no reason to say that can't close down as we start to get into some more back markers now.
Yeah, that was Brian Richardson. He just carved his way past, and he works his way past the blue car with the the orange car with the light blue stripe down the centre of it. That is going to be Julian Morris. So that's a couple of back markers dealt with now, which means that Harry Mailer has done all of the hard work, and yet into the pit lane comes Steve Wood. You can see the problem is with the Porsches is all the radiators at the front, you can see the coolant, can't you, being deposited down the pit lane, and also into the pit lane is the other car that he clobbered as well, which is Paul Simpson. So both those cars in the incident out of the race.
I feel sorry for Simpson because he did exactly the right thing, stayed well over to the left-hand side, hand out the window, letting everyone go through, and I think there was just a bit of too much squeezing from the drivers, desperate to keep their position in the top three there at the front, which led to the collision with Wood. So really a shame to see those drivers not finish the race, or not at least stay on the lead lap, and I'm sure they'll get finished for the race later on. But yeah, good thing to see those cars come in before any long-term damage was done to the engine, for example. If you carry on without a coolant, the engines don't tend to like that.
No, not at all. And Steve Wood will know that, and Autofarm, the Porsche specialists.
You can see there Morris having a slide through the Roberts chicane, as there you can see the coolant that had been laid down was just meaning there's a slippery line, so the drivers have to be careful of that. It should hopefully dry up by the end of the race, but we'll have to keep an eye on if that affects any of the drivers through the final sector, which is where their water has been laid.
Yeah, slippy old stuff coolant, and it doesn't evaporate that quickly either.
No, it's got, of course, generally got some antifreeze in there, so some sort of doesn't evaporate quite as quickly as water. It's some sort of oil-based product normally, but yeah, really unfortunate that those drivers are not finished, and it'll have to be another thing to think about for Harry Mailer, even at the front, even though with that comfortable gap, so easy to make a mistake and lose a few seconds or spin on the coolant, as we see a fight further down the field in Class B.
Yeah, this is Class 2. This is the car of Oliver Chatham, who is having to work overtime to try and hang on to that position. The car that's right with him is going to be Felix Archer, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's right with him, and he is looking to see if he can work his way through at the wheel of the number 70 car, up to second in Class 2 at the moment. So whilst our Class 2 leader has got a comfortable lead, the fight for second, third and fourth in Class 2 is a close one as well, because not that far behind is Harry Rice as well at the wheel of the white and orange and black machine.
Yes, 4 of them for second place, not only covered by a couple of seconds, and again the back markers coming into play as well. That will affect how the fight goes, as we can head back towards the front in class number 1. So further fighting. is number 5. That is the number 5 of the Richardson. He's having a fight down there as Class 1 cars come through, staying out of the way while also minding your own race is a skill in itself.
Yeah, that was Andrew Muggeridge who squeezed his way through there and past Brian Richardson, puts a lap on the Class 2 Boxster. So they're running four cars on the team that Brian Richardson is racing for. They're all identically liveried as well, so from a commentary perspective it's a bit of a nightmare to try and pick them out. Thankfully I don't think they're all Boxsters. I think there's a couple of 996s in there, so it does make things slightly easier because the shape of the car is subtly different. Good fight still going on. The number 74 car, that looks as though that's the ex-Mike Price car actually, and that is being driven today by Jim Bryant. He has got the cars that are fighting over 2nd and 3rd in Class 2 right behind him at the moment, so this is sort of 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th places altogether, but the car at the front of the queue is Class 1. Those that are behind are all Class 2. You
can see that how the classes differ slightly in their lap time, with the Class 1 car pulling away on the straights, and then the Class 2 cars, the Boxsters and the like, are catching up in the corners. But again, another awesome looking Porsche, that Class 1 car with the green highlights. It just looks so cool.
It does look cool, yeah. It's Mike Price has sort of run like green cars for a good period of time, and even the car he's racing in British GT this year, the Mercedes, is very similarly liveried. I'd say I think that looks like his old car. Yeah, the Class 2 cars also have less tyres that they can utilise as well. So the Class 1 cars are limited to a maximum of 1 set of tyres every race meeting, 1 brand new set of tyres. For Class 2, they get 1 set of tyres every 2nd meeting. So yes, it's the first race meeting of the year, so they're all on brand new tyres, but these Class 2 cars will then have to use these very same tyres at Brands.
Another car off in the gravel. Can't quite see what number that is. It's the old hairpin, yeah, another car off there that's so easily done, potentially losing it on the brakes, or potentially with some fighting. We'll let you know who that is as soon as we find out, but as we keep an eye on the timing screens, I imagine. But we're heading back to that battle for Class 2 with these cars going down towards the final corner of the lap. Not as close as they were last time.
No, not quite as close, but for the moment Oliver Chatham is still hanging on as hard as possible to try and prevent Felix Archer to work his way through. The car in the gravel trap, Piers.
Number 52, we believe, Labbits. So unfortunately Labbits his race has been finished about 3 minutes early there in the gravel. I imagine we'll probably just stay yellow down that section of the circuit now until the end of the race, so the drivers will have to just ease off the power a little bit, just take it a little bit easy through that section. Of course, single file, no overtaking through the old hairpin. It's not a main overtaking opportunity, so it shouldn't make a huge difference to the racing, I imagine, but you can see again, hands up. Then, oh no, red flag has been pulled actually, red flag has been pulled, so we're calling this race early, so that last lap will probably be the result.
Yeah, such a shame that, but with that car in a dangerous position and with still a lot of other racing to get into that. I mean, if they're going to throw the safety car, that would have nullified the race anyway with 2.5 minutes to go. If you're going to cover it by localised yellows, then you're going to put marshals into danger whilst they hook the car up with a couple of minutes to go. Sensible decision again by the officials, because it means that we can clear the incident away, we can reset for this afternoon's racing activity as well, and cram it all in, because we've got a lot to get through generally with all of the other support races that are here, as well as Porsche Club Motorsport over the course of this weekend.
Yeah, very sensible decision. The race unfortunately bookended by some red flags, but it was still great racing throughout the field, both in Class 1 and in Class 2. A decisive victory in Class 1, and Harry Mailer taking the victory by the looks of it in Class 1, sorry, and then in race 2, and then a decisive victory as well. So yeah, but great racing throughout, and also some drama as well.
Yeah, certainly drama with the red flag at the start, and then the couple of small little incidents we've had out on circuit. But hopefully all of the cars will be able to be repaired to come back out for our second race of the day, the second of the Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli races later on, that's scheduled to take place around about 4:45 this afternoon. And hopefully we'll also see out our champion from last year, number 1 Colin Tester, because he had electrical gremlins in qualifying, didn't do a single lap. They were trying to fix the car for the race, but he never appeared, so hopefully they'll sort him out for race number 2. Yeah,
that would be great to see him out in race number 2. I'm sure he'll be a force to be reckoned with, and trying to get some revenge for not being out in that first race. Harry Mailer towards the end of that race really showing his hand in terms of pace, a 15 flat as opposed to everyone else's fastest lap. He was about 7/10 faster than our second fastest driver, who was actually Caley in 3rd place.
So let's just confirm the provisional results for you then for the first of the Porsche Club Championships with Pirelli over the course of this weekend. It was going to be Harry Mailer that claimed the win, and it was Pete Morris who was there in second place. James Caley was there in third, ahead of Neil Delagry, who finished in fourth place. Then it was Chris Dyer and Andrew Muggeridge that completed the top six. In seventh place, it was the number 32 car that finished in seventh position, which was Ed Hayes. He came off the very tail end of the field to finish in seventh place. We didn't really pick up on that to a huge degree. And then in eighth position, it was Andy Toon. Ninth place was Richard Baston, and completing the top 10 was the number 22 car in the hands of Evans. Just outside of the top 10, in 11th position, that's where we see the winner of Class 2, which was the car of Andrew Porter. Then in 12th position, it was the number 74 car that we saw having a good little battle, Jim Bryan, and then it was Oliver Chatham and Felix Archer that were there 13th and 14th, and second and third respectively in Class 2. Rice finished in 15th, head of Labatt, who picked up a time penalty, finishes in 16th place. Hayleton, Richardson, Morris and Khan complete the top 20. So that's the way that they finished in the first of the Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli here at Donington Park. They do have another race taking place later on this afternoon. That is scheduled to go live at around about 4:45 this afternoon, but that is flexible and subject to change, of course, depending on how we get on with the rest of the support races. So for myself, Mark Werrell and Piers Pryor, thanks for joining us for the first of the Porsche Club Championship races. We'll be back with you later on today. Goodbye.